Hi everybody and welcome to MJT's Wycombe Wanderers Plus, and as you see, both me and Kieran are in the same room. Couldn't get the other computer to work and he's home for the few days, so here we are actually sat next to each other. I won't show him the answers to his quiz because that'll be cheating, wouldn't it? Yes. So welcome my friends to the show that just never ends, and this is, thank you, this is number 30. So where do we start? Well, let's start with well, I've got 5. I mean, maybe you got some interesting information, Kieran. But do you know, talking of 5 sub rule is now extended to 2022. Did you know that?
I didn't. Seems a bit excessive.
Well, there we go. You know, this information. Nikkei is how you pronounce it.
Nike.
You see, he can read my what I've written and tell me what I'm supposed to say. Of course, I can pronounce all these names and all these things. It's just a bit of entertainment for everybody, really. Nike and Adidas. Now, Adidas, the 90% drop in sales for the first 3 months in 2020. Amazing, yeah. I mean, that's why, just so you know, that's why Nike are sponsoring less players than they've ever sponsored. And that's why sponsorship is going out the door, because, I mean, this is going to make a big difference to those players' wages, because the sales in sports boots and everything else has gone.
Nice whistle. Yeah, it was good.
Good whistle. Yeah, obviously you don't need whistles either.
I've been practicing that.
Yeah. 10 players only. Well, no, not 10 players left. I mean, 10 players have walked away from Sheffield Wednesday, and their contracts not just not being renewed, but they couldn't even keep the players they wanted to. So far, there's still another 3 or 4 they're trying to sort out. But at the moment, out of a 23-man squad, 10 have walked. So Sheffield Wednesday are in for a good laugh this summer in trying to find anybody that will want to play for them. Good luck. Darren Moore cannot understand why he took the job as manager. Big thing to discuss in a moment. Well, 2 big things. First of all, Fred, as in Onidinma, leaves Wycombe Wanderers, and what a shame that is. One of the best players we've ever had at Wycombe, and can understand why he's leaving, but what a shame. And Brentford beat Swansea. Started at the beginning of the season, if you want to go back, saying that I think Brentford and Swansea were the 2 decent teams. They both ended up in the playoff final, and Brentford go up. And Tony only actually cost them 5 million quid. Could end up costing them 8 with all the add-ons. But there's 3 teams looking at buying him, actually, and I think Brentford won't want to sell him. One is Watford. Why would he want to go to Watford? Any reasons, Kieran? Can you think of a good reason why he'd want to go to Watford?
More likely to get relegated than they are with Brentford.
Yeah.
In the same boat.
Yeah, absolutely. The other team, Everton. Why would he want to go to Everton, Kieran?
He wouldn't. Calvert-Lewin is already there. Pretty much it's a very similar striker, actually, to Tony, I would say.
And the last one actually looking at him is Leicester, and I presume that's to replace Vardy.
It's more understandable, I'd say, because you know Vardy's going to be leaving within the next 2 or 3 years at the most, really. Could even be next year. He is old at this stage.
That would be a good move for him, wouldn't it?
It would make the most sense. I mean, he would definitely get more games in the Europa League as well. Other teams, they're only going to get games in, Carabao Cup, FA Cup sort of thing, and you can only get 2 or 3 games in those anyway. Europa League, you're guaranteed 6 games to show yourself off, and Leicester should be getting through the group and getting somewhere later on, really.
So, but Brentford, of course, are going to have a little bit more money than they've ever had this season.
They don't need to sell.
We've talked before, or I've talked before, and we've talked before about parachute money and all the money they're going to earn in the Premier League. And as we've said before, it's the £200 million position that they picked up. They are well off this year. If he does leave, well, they've got money anyway, but they've got money that they probably don't need to sell him.
You'd like to think that he'd have some sort of loyalty to Brentford at this point.
I keep looking at me.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure whether to look at you or look at you
I keep
over
looking
in
at
this
you.
side.
I keep looking at you when you talk. So
Yeah, you look at me on the screen. See, that's better, I think.
I'm looking at you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's probably
half
better.
the time when it's me on my own laptop, I look at myself.
Do you?
Just to make sure I'm looking all right.
Yeah, you're looking all right. Okay. Did you think Kieran looks all right? If not,
No, don't.
please.
Don't. That's not a thing for people to comment.
Okay.
It'll make me feel bad.
If you want to encourage Kieran, tell him underneath what a great guy he looks.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. I've got a little story there, but we're not going to tell it. This isn't the place. But anyway, so moving on, we've got quite a few topics to pick. Obviously, we've been an interesting week regarding Brentford, City and Chelsea, Manchester United, snigger. But of course, let's start, Kieran, with the I need to sort of, I haven't spent ages sort of taking clips off of here and putting them in there. This is a bit of a break. We're going away for a few days tomorrow, so I won't have time to do that sort of stuff. So I will every now and again just stop and say, right, let's move on. So this one's going to be pretty simple, etc. So let's stop and move on. Okay. When was Liverpool founded, Kieran? This is a Kieran quiz.
I was going to say, you didn't introduce it.
The Kieran quiz. So, when were Liverpool founded, Kieran? In 1890.
Did we do this one?
We did this one. It's moved. Sorry, it's moved chapter. Sorry, my apologies. Who won the UEFA Player of the Year in 2005? Was it Alonso, Gerrard, or Owen?
No, I was assuming it's a Liverpool player. It's going to be Gerrard, isn't it?
All right, let me keep it. He got it wrong last week. He said he got 7. He only got 6.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Who did you say it was?
It's Gerrard, isn't it?
It was Gerrard.
Yeah.
So he's got 1 out of 10. Number 2, who was known as the Flying Pig? Karius, Lawrence, or Mignolet?
I'm going to guess Lawrence. I don't remember it being Karius or Mignolet.
You're right, it was Lawrence. Who was Liverpool's first ever substitute? Arrowsmith, Byron, or Chisnell?
Byron.
Sorry, it was Chisnell.
No.
Who made the most Premier League appearances for Liverpool as substitute?
Ooh.
Babel, Murphy, or Origi?
Ooh. I'm going to say Babel, because I think he was there longer.
Babel is correct.
Yeah.
Number 5, who designed the prototype for the Adidas Predator football boot? He used to wear them.
Is it Gerrard? As in, is that the point of it?
No. I haven't given you the 3 answers yet.
Oh, that doesn't count then.
No, because you'll see why.
Oh, I see.
Because who designed the prototype of the Adidas Predator football boot? David Johnson, Glenn Johnson, or Craig Johnson? I mean, personally, I think I should take a point away for you saying Gerrard.
Well, no, because the boots of Gerrard wore, wasn't it? Well, I don't really know. Glenn Johnson?
No, sorry. So
how am I supposed to know that?
So Kieran there has got 3 out of 5 on that one. So
2 of those questions were rubbish, though.
Were they? Why? Because you didn't know the
How am I
answer.
supposed to know who designs some football boots?
Well,
I know who wore them. I don't know who made them.
Okay, and now we come to the Premier League. Okay, which two players have missed the most penalties in the Premier League? They have both missed a total of 11.
Ooh. I don't get choices for these ones, do I?
No,
Um,
they have both missed. I'll let you, if you just get
I'll
one, I'll let
yeah, I
you.
was gonna say, give me some slack. Rooney?
You're correct. Yeah, and the other one, of course, was Alan Shearer. But that's only because they took the most, you see. It'd be my guess. Okay, who captained Leicester City's title-winning season in 2015-16?
Wes Morgan.
You're correct. One player has scored a record 39 Premier League goals in a calendar year. Can you name the player the calendar year?
Oh, it's either Van Persie or Kane. I'll go with Kane.
Kane is correct.
I'm smashing it.
You are. You're going for it, man. Which Argentinian player broke British transfer records, costing a Premier League club 28.1 million in July 2001?
Argentinian. For who, sorry?
What did I say? No, I didn't say.
I'm trying to think of Argentinians in 2001.
I would never have got this.
Was his name Veron?
You have got that. Very good. I'm impressed. That's 7 you've got, with one more to go. Which Ukrainian player broke British transfer records, costing a Premier League club 30.8 million in July 2006?
Didn't do very well for them. It was Shevchenko.
You're correct. You've got 8 out of 10.
Do you know why people will think I've done well? It's because there's been times where I just accidentally look down and think that I'm looking at the answers. I'm not looking at the answers because the writing is far too small.
Oh, it is. You'd never be able to read that, guys.
No.
You'd never
So
be able
I'm
to
not
read that.
cheating. But some of those I actually did get.
I'm very impressed. Yeah, very impressed. Okay, so that was Kieran's quiz. Have you beaten 8 out of 10? Because if so, I'm sure we can find you no, we can't find you a prize, not at all. Okay, we've got the 3 cups. I think, shall we move on to the 3 cups? Certainly got a lot to say. I have.
Sure you do.
Certainly about Guardiola and his about certain things, but there is also something else I wanted to hit first. I don't know whether to hit this one first or not really, because time and all that, but we're going to I've just got to find it, so excuse me spending a frazzle of a time here.
This is where people notice that you don't research it all yourself. You don't make up the stats yourself. You get it from somewhere else.
But so do they. Everybody gets their stories from somewhere, don't they?
You're just not an analytical genius of the Premier League.
Well, actually, funny you say that, because Wickham are actually looking for somebody to do all the statistics to look up, ready to play each game, aren't they? Okay, we are going to look at the alternative awards this week, not just the sort of the bog standard who we thought was the best player, but there are actually answers to this, and we will discuss what we think. I don't know whether I stuck anywhere in there to put a let's move on to the next bit, but it doesn't matter. Right, the first one is a statistical team of the year. Now, this doesn't mean they come top, it doesn't mean they come middle or bottom, but who sort of as in overall they considered to have the best quality chances, they created the most, they had the quality defending, etc., etc. So who,
On
if you
paper.
were on paper, if you were to use all your XGs on sort of defence and blah, 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 who would come top? Now, there is, of course, a shout for Manchester City. Obviously, they come top. The quantity of expected goals and defence, etc., etc., per game, etc., etc., they do really well. But the other one that does really well was Brighton and Hove Albion. Their overall expected goal difference was the fourth best in the league, driven mainly by their great defence. Okay, so what actually would you say went wrong?
They had Welbeck up front.
They had Welbeck up front.
They just had strikers that weren't clinical enough. And isn't that what most lower table teams say? They haven't got a striker who's clinical enough, and they have a defence where they're very unlucky. I think they've just summed up completely within a season.
Well, we were having a chat a minute ago, or 5 or 10, about our friend at Brentford up front, old Tony. How well would Brighton have got on with Tony up front? Now that would be a really fascinating team for him to join, I reckon. I reckon that'd be really interesting. How good would Brighton be with a decent striker? I think that would be really entertaining. But they are suggesting that next year Brighton aren't going to be in the bottom half of the table. If you actually look how far they improved as the season went on, with the statistics, etc., if they could just improve a frazzle up front, they're going to be in the top half. Okay, best goal per minute ratio. So the Golden Boot, as we know, went to Mr. Kane on the final day, who collected the award for the third time. He scored 23 goals. Yeah, all that, etc., etc. I think you should take penalties out of it because I think that's not right. Otherwise, I just think that's daft. You shouldn't count penalties. Who would have won it without penalties? Do you know?
I feel like it would have been Son.
Right.
Son was up there. Calvert-Lewin was up there. Because the top three were Kane, Salah, and Fernandes. And Fernandes was only up there for penalties.
Yeah.
Salah had a few, and Kane had a few. And I think Son was only just behind.
Okay.
Which would have been interesting because it's not like Son's been scoring week in, week out.
Right. Okay. Well, here we go. Considering only players who have played 900 plus minutes in the Premier League, the player with the highest rate of non-penalty goals, because it only tells us after sort of 900 plus, per 90 is Kane's teammate Gareth Bale. Interesting. Bale played 923 minutes. He scored 11 goals. So per 90 minutes, he scored 1.07 goals.
Jose didn't play him enough.
No, obviously, a bad mistake, actually, because looking at that statistic, he run away with it. Actually, he did run away with it because the next up is, I'm never going to pronounce that, but you can read it from there.
Ian, that show.
Absolutely, for Leicester. He played 1,450 minutes. He scored 12 goals. And so he was knocking them in every 0.74 per 90. So he's quite a way behind. Bale was clearly the best striker in the Football League. Next comes Jota for Liverpool. Would you believe? And Cavani follows, Willock. And then Kane comes down there in 6th because remember, these aren't penalties, and per 90 minutes of playing, Kane scored 19 goals, but he was only scoring in time, he was scoring 0.5 goals per 90 minutes, whereas Bale was scoring 1.07. So there's something very interesting. So, in fact, if Bale had started more games, does that mean, I mean, those statistics, does that tell us if Bale had started more games, they would have scored twice as many goals?
No. Well, I mean, it has to be said that Bale turned up in most of the games that were against middle or lower league table teams.
Yeah, he played like in the FA Cup and things.
Yeah,
and
considering how low Kane is on that table, you have to remember he was the top assists player in the league as well. But it is interesting to see that neither Salah or Fernandes are on there, and they were, top 3 goal scorers in the league this year.
There's only been one player with a better return than Bale's this year since the Premier League first started. And that, funnily enough, was our friend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He actually, goals per minute ratio was a goal every 71 minutes. Whereas Bale's was one in every 84.
He never started a game, did he?
He never started a game. So there's that one. Next one, best performing manager. But this time, let's base it. Now this has always been my argument. Of course, you can give the award to the guy that won the league.
Can't believe they gave it to Guardiola this year.
On the other hand, let's have a look at the best performing manager based on squad value. Now we find out what manager did the best with what he'd got. Because let's be honest about this. If you were the manager of Manchester City, the manager of Manchester United, or the manager of Chelsea, you can be pretty crap as a manager and still beat Derby County. Couldn't we manage one of those teams to beat Derby County, Kieran?
Probably.
Yeah,
I'd like to think so.
I think so, easy. But when you have a bit of a problem with the purchase value of the team and the amount of points that you get, this is how you're going to work it out. You work out how many points per million you get. So if you spent, so it's simple. How many league points did you get? So how many points per million did you get? And then we can see where the teams line up. And funnily enough, Manchester City come bottom of that table.
Yeah, but in all fairness, that's just because of how much those squads cost compared to the others. Like, yes, granted, they all are at the bottom, but I don't think that's fully representative of how well the managers do.
No, we'll say
all of them are at the bottom.
Yeah, but I think this can give you a little bit.
It can give you a hint.
It could give you a hint, yeah. So probably the other way round. Actually, it means you can't blame the manager when a team don't do very well in the Premier League.
The top 13.
Let's just read these out, because you point in saying the top 13, people need to know who come top. Leeds actually came top. Their purchase value of their players was 115 million. They picked up 59 points and they spent per point 1.9 million. So for every point they got, it cost them 1.9 million, which is incredible, really, isn't it? Next came Burnley with 2.2 points per million, and then West Ham on 2.8 points per million, and then Fulham, West Brom.
2.2 million per point.
sorry, 2.2 million per point. Sorry,
Yeah.
wrong way round. And then when you get to the bottom, you've got Chelsea at 7.6 million per point, followed by United at 9.2 million per point, and City at 9.7 million per point. So when you look at it, should Manchester City, when playing Leeds United, win? Of course. They cost £838 million on that pitch. That's the value of their players. And Leeds are 115. And in fact, you can go down and find a few cheaper. And Burnley, are Burnley the cheapest team? No, West Brom are the cheapest at 78 million. So
no wonder they got relegated.
No wonder they got relegated. Absolutely. But that's interesting. I think that's interesting. You can see why some of these teams find it difficult to compete. I mean,
Leeds still beat City, though, didn't they?
Leeds still beat City, and boy, did most of us really enjoy that. Now, next, player who most overperformed their XG. Now, on that table, because we go into sort of great detail. Okay, this is non-penalty goals, I might add. And you said earlier about Son, about how many goals, etc. per minute. Well, actually, he came top of this. He scored 16 goals. Expected goals was 8.9. So he really overperformed. He scored way more goals. And I don't know whether, I hope everybody's getting this XG thing. And what it means, if you're standing in front of the goal 3 yards away with an open goal and no goalkeeper, the XG rate is 1. If you stand and have 2 of those chances, your XG goal rate is 2. If, on the other hand, you're standing at a sort of much harder area to score that goal, then the XG rate comes way down in the how many people are going to actually put the ball in the net from that position, how many times, and you start adding all those chances up. And of course, so Son, excellent. Followed by Bale, again, followed by Lingard. And these top players, you've actually got 3 City players in there. Gundogan, Mahrez and Foden all are way over their expected goals. That either means they're brilliant or we're lucky. Are they going to do that again? Well, I reckon Gundogan, that was a one-off. I think he had a nice little bit of luck, good time. I don't think we'll see that again. Foden, I think, is on the up. I think this tells us he's on the up. And I think Mahrez, well, I think he's slightly overperformed as well but there's a reason, and that is because they didn't have a number 9.
And now they really don't have a number 9.
And now they really don't have a number 9. No. Okay. Next, player who most underperformed their expected goals. Now, we've discussed this last week about who's the worst striker, and we put Werner in there. And again, during this cup match we saw, you can see why. Yeah, exciting player. He's a good, exciting player. Gets caught offside all the time and misses. Still quite exciting for what?
He gets into where he needs to be.
Yeah, he runs into great places, but it's, the worst. Actually, I thought Werner would be up there at the top, but he isn't actually. Vardy is. Vardy has missed more chances this season than anybody. Vardy has scored 7 goals, but out of the positions he'd been standing in to score those goals, would have normally been expected to score 12.8. He's missed shockers, actually. And that then is followed by Werner, and then followed by, am I going to pronounce this guy's name right? No. Mope. And we've talked about Brighton before and how they cock it up. But a surprise one on there, which really, I mean, okay, we know Mane's had a bit of a rough time and he's on there on this top 10. But the other one that surprises me, but again, we saw it, again, we saw it on the cup match yesterday, was De Bruyne. He's had a not great season. He's scored 4, was expected to score at least 7 of them, and so he's been missing them. He's not above, he's actually way below. Do you think he's had a bad season?
I mean, people have talked about him a lot, haven't they, being in their team of the seasons and whatnot. I think people have just come to assume that he should be in there and haven't actually watched City or really had a good look at how De Bruyne has performed this season, because his numbers aren't great. Was he top assist? He wasn't top assist because obviously Kane was, and that is, his bread and butter sort of thing. So maybe he didn't have that good a season. Maybe he didn't.
Well, and the next one, this is, I don't want to keep going through this, but I keep finding the next one that I think is really interesting. The player who created the biggest share of their team's chances. Want to take a guess without looking at this?
I did see it.
Oh, right, okay.
But I mean, to be fair, it's not a surprise, is it? Because they really don't have anyone else. Pereira from West Brom.
Yeah, he's created more chances than any other player, followed by Fernandes.
More chances for their team.
Yes. Now that is where you'll find De Bruyne 4th, by the way, with Grealish just behind. Now this is per 90, so it's not, because Grealish obviously been out for a while, but it's per 90 minutes that they're on the pitch. So he can get on there. Neto is also on there. He comes 3rd. So that makes sense. So that's okay. And the last one we're going to look at would be your best shot stopper. I've got to finish with the goalkeepers. And we talked about Martinez being goalkeeper of the season, putting him now top. Well, he came 2nd as a shot stopper. But Lloris actually came top. So lucky they got him, otherwise they would have been in trouble, wouldn't they? So the shots that Lloris faced was 487. He conceded 42 out of the 487. But he actually prevented, that's 5.1.
So he's expected to concede 47.1 and only conceded 42.
Yeah, so he was in excellent form, and Pope actually is 3rd, which is why it's such a shame. As a shot stopper, he comes in 3rd. And just so you know, for England's sort of sake, Pickford comes in 8th and Henderson 9th. And so to pick one or the other as a shot stopper, they're actually very, very similar. So it's not that you're going to pick one or the other, I might add. It's going to be based on...
I was going to say, this doesn't determine whether you're a good goalkeeper or not. I don't think Lloris is very good.
No, it's shot stopper.
Yeah, it's who can tip one over the bar sort of thing. It's not all the others.
We could go into stuff like team who did the best from losing positions, but we know that's United, followed by Leicester, you might add. But anyway, we'll leave that there, and we've got, because otherwise we're going to run out of ton of time. I don't know how long it's been.
I think we're all right.
I think you're all right. Okay, well, quick Brentford. Brentford, well done, Brentford. I'm really pleased to see you up there. You're going to have to do something about your defence. Even Wickham scored 2 against you in one of those games. You're going to have to do something. Saw them in the semis and they let in a shocker. It wasn't even from the halfway line. It was further up the pitch, where just a guy just kicked it over the top and it was in. I mean, it was just mad. Brentford weren't even there. I don't know what they were doing. I mean, you don't leave players standing on the halfway line while you're up for the corner and you leave them on their own. They seem very, very naive at the back, but they're brilliant up front. And we keep mentioning Tony. It's not just him. He needs people to create those goals, and they've got them. But had Swansea gone up, Swansea wouldn't have stood any hope. But I hope Brentford remind me so much of Leeds that with the attitude of that manager, he isn't going to, nice one in the ribs, overthink games. He's going to play to his strengths, and I'm looking forward to Brentford being up there. But I do think they need just maybe a couple of, they need a centre back, that's for sure. I'm sorry, Brentford, you do need a centre back, and maybe also the coaching staff. I do wonder about the coaching staff, their defence. Probably could do with a bit of help.
The thing is, it has to be said that if this season they've come below Watford and Norwich, if they're going to stay up, they have to go above those teams.
Yes.
One of the 3 will get relegated.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because Watford and Norwich aren't great either.
Well, I think Watford are the team to come down, certainly. And out of the 3, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and not to say Brentford didn't deserve it either, but did see the highlights of Swansea versus Brentford, and Swansea really didn't pose a threat. And after the sending off, they definitely didn't pose a threat.
No.
I have to feel sorry for the bloke who got sent off, actually, because he slipped on the guy's ankle. It looked awful. He did slip and completely crunched the guy.
Yeah.
But after that, there was no chance that Swansea were going to do anything.
I don't think they would have done anyway.
No.
I think they've overplayed themselves this year, and
I mean, we got a 2-2 draw against them, didn't we? And they were.
Yeah. By the way, we judge everything. If Wickham did all right, then they must be rubbish.
Because we drew. Was it 0-0 against Watford at the start of the season? I know, it's a while ago. However, they weren't great. Well, and if you're going to come up against these Premier League teams that we're saying are getting better, like your Brightons and your top, however many it is, top 10 really.
Well, look at how Newcastle finished.
Yeah, I mean, them against St. Maximin, they're stuffed, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah.
So I think they've got to definitely do something, Brentford, to stay up. Got to do something with the back line. Charging forward, great, but you don't win games. You can't win games working on the theory we'll score more than you.
Team at the bottom as well are gonna. Why Brentford will be. They're gonna have to get used to not having possession as well. Actually, having to stay in shape and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So defensively, they're gonna have to.
Yeah, and that they couldn't even do in the semi-final against. Well, it was Bournemouth, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Next one.
United.
Yeah, Man United. Exciting penalty shoot, wasn't it?
Well, that was the only bit exciting about the game. The
Yeah.
game was a drag. The game didn't have anything. I mean, the team that United, it's the team that United put out against the team that Villarreal put out. It's unreal. So they had Villarreal Capu from Watford, who played against us at the beginning of the season, went on loan to Villarreal, and he was their biggest name, really, apart from another guy called Bacca, who's their striker, who's 34 and is only famous because of how good he was on FIFA back in 2013. The Villarreal, there was nothing to them. They I think they came 7th in La Liga, and La Liga this year's been pretty dire. And United have this team where they have Pogba, Fernandes, Rashford, Cavani, and they didn't have a shot apart from their one goal, which was
a poke in, wasn't it?
Which was a poke in from 3 yards out because of deflection. And Rashford obviously missed his sitter from 2 yards out. Again. Apart from that, they were just awful. Like, yeah. I mean, I was obviously very happy because I didn't want them to win, but
this is where I don't get it, you see, because in a minute we will discuss Guardiola, because I think Guardiola lost the final, and you might disagree with me. But doesn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, didn't he lose the final?
Yeah.
I mean, what I don't get is their goalkeeper cannot save a penalty, never has, and
the other one can.
The other one does. I can't remember what the record is since he last saved a penalty.
De Gea hasn't saved one since 2016.
But he can't. He doesn't. And he never even looked like he was going to save one. The only way they were going to get through is if somebody put it above the bar. I mean, as long as they got it on target, it was a goal. And I kept, and what was he doing? I mean, this guy brought on fullbacks so that they could be faster. I mean, if you are Manchester United, what's wrong with your squad that you can't bring a substitute on either? I don't understand that. You see, this is where I'm going to argue that Solskjaer has only got one team of 11 and one idea. And he can't change that 11 and he cannot change his idea. He's got nothing else up here. That is it. You've got what you got. And if it doesn't work, well, you lose. Even if you're standing watching it, he's going to lose. Yeah. And he lets them lose because he doesn't know what else to do. He stands, you see him standing there, and he's not got a clue. He's not telling his players what to do because they've been told once, and you can't tell him twice because he doesn't know what else to do. Whereas I would say then you come to Wally, manager for Manchester City, who doesn't, whereas Solskjaer has A, City have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Rather than having an A or a B way of playing, he's got so many that you don't know whether he's coming or going, and nor do the players. And that is going to be my argument. But Solskjaer has got to go, because as long as he's there, they will only ever come second. They're a second-rate team. Do you know they had a chance of buying the guy that scored the goal back in 2013? Did you know that? Yeah. And it was after, was it Ferguson?
It would have been back then, yeah.
It was whoever took over Ferguson.
Oh, Moyes.
Moyes had the opportunity to buy him, yeah. I just thought that'd be interesting, but drop that in there. But yeah, I mean, do you think I'm right?
Well, at the end of the day, like, you don't want to talk about things on paper as such, but on paper, City have Tuchel, who we know is very well proven now, Guardiola, Klopp, Spurs had Pochettino, Leicester of Rodgers. You know, all these teams of big name managers who have been there and done it and won big competitions. Solskjaer hasn't won a big competition ever and doesn't look like he's ever going to. Like, people were like, if he had won the Europa League, I don't think it makes a difference. Because, like, at the end of the day,
at least it would have been something.
I know it would have been silverware, but at the end of the day, all these beaten to get a trophy as such is Villarreal, AC Milan. He didn't even beat Villarreal. He would have beaten Villarreal. AC Milan, whoever's even play. It's the Europa League. They're not going to play big teams, unfortunately.
It's a strange one because
Roma is one of them.
I just think they are. He can jump up and down about coming second. What difference between Liverpool having a nightmare season with all their players injured and Manchester United, who actually didn't have a nightmare season?
They had their full 11 pretty much the whole season.
And what difference did they end up with?
3 points or something. Well, as soon as Maguire got injured, like Maguire was injured for the cup final, they didn't have a clue.
No.
They fell apart. And we have had Van Dijk the whole season. Yes, we've used it as an excuse, but it's been a bad excuse. They only had Maguire for one game, for a couple of games, and they completely collapsed.
So, in the end, what they've got is a successful season is coming second.
Well, I mean, it's not, is it, though?
Because Liverpool will look at that as a really bad season, actually. It was, thank goodness we got through it.
Yeah.
At least we've got. It's the way Liverpool will look at it.
It's thank goodness we got through it, and means that next season we can now do what we want to do because of Champions League.
What he was doing, though, on that, I just don't think he knows what he's doing, and I don't get it, and I have to keep questioning, and I do, is Rashford. Because I look at the write-ups afterwards by the United fans. They do not like him. They do not like him.
No.
I mean, we go on about him playing for England.
He doesn't get anywhere near the team. I'm sorry.
No.
So, I don't understand why people. I mean, people think that Rashford was in like the Premier League team of the season, didn't they?
Yeah.
Gary never put Rashford in. It's just like. What has given you that inclination? I mean,
it's fine if you don't mind kicking the ball with the left foot as you're falling over and it goes 10 yards wide, then fine.
It's not what we want.
And from somebody who won't put a tackle in, then great. I think perfect player. But people don't see that. They see us a hero. But they don't watch him play football.
I don't think people want to admit that Rashford should not be starting for Man United. In their dream front three, he doesn't start. He doesn't get in the City's front three, even though they don't have a striker. Doesn't get in Liverpool's front three. Not even Arsenal's.
No.
I would argue.
No. Okay, then moving straight on to the other Manchester. Oh boy, they've had a good season, haven't they? Is Guardiola. Okay, let me just say a couple of things and then you can take it apart. Okay. Guardiola, they say, overthinks. Or is it he doesn't really know what he's doing? Manchester United versus Manchester City. United have one way of doing something and no more. City have 250 ways of doing something and he ain't got a clue which one he's going to do until the last possible moment. The final is not the time to try something different. That surely comes under the hat of D for dunce, doesn't it? Surely you do not send a football team out onto that pitch to play a different way in the European Cup final, a way that they haven't played. You don't do that. He's done this before, funnily enough, where he sends teams out in a different lineup, with a different style to have a go. One was when he was Bayern Munich manager, and he was in the semis to Real Madrid. And they lost 5-0 when he did this. And they reckon, they used the word, he looks a broken man. And he actually spent an hour in the office apologising to the captain. Is it Philip Lahm?
Lahm.
Lahm. And then last season he did the same with Manchester City when they lost 3-1 to Lyon, where he put 3 centre-backs and played shut up shop. And they lost because he changed what he's used to. I don't mind a team having 2 ideas, one way if it's this and one way if it's that. But if the players have never played your 6th idea, and suddenly you put a new team out there of different players that haven't played together that season with a complete new idea on how you're going to be playing, I'm sorry, but that's Dumbo. Do you know, when he was Bayern Munich manager, he watched the opposition, Benfica, for a game so many times, leant over the computer watching games to work out what he was going to do. He actually got backache and had to go and see somebody because he watched over 10 of their games. He watched them for 15 hours to work out what he was going to do. He pays too much to the opposition, pays too much interest in the opposition and not enough in his own. Of course you look at the opposition, but not that much that you take more interest in the opposition than you do the quality and the skills your own team can perform. Your team aren't just robots. They cannot just do what you tell them. It doesn't work like that. Maybe you think too much of your own team and think they're perfect. Actually, maybe you're not overthinking it, but maybe you're being a bit of a smart ass, actually, thinking that you're better than everybody else and your team can play better than everybody else. Maybe he trusts himself too much and his own team too much. Now, not to play Rodri and Fernandinho not to put either of them in. That's the first time in 60 games, second time for 60 games.
First time this season.
His comment was, the closer you are to who you are, the more chance you have of going through. Not when you are thinking about the opponent. It's about what you do. I want to be ourselves. That is my wish. Well, that ain't what he does at all. So why change not just players? So you've got idiot up front on the left there, Sterling. Why? I mean, if you're not, Sterling's not playing very well. So why put Sterling in the team? Why not? So why change not just the players, but the whole setup? And he knew he'd done something wrong because after he'd as good as lost the game because of the quality that Chelsea had built up during the game, and they were so going for it, and City had already lost it, that after 60 minutes he started putting it back to where it should have been in the first place. But it was too late. He'd already lost. That is what I think why he lost the game. And it was him, not Manchester City. It was him that lost the game. Do you think that's a fair comment?
So I will defend him firstly in saying that they had played Chelsea twice recently and lost twice with having Fernandinho and Rodri in there. However, it's not like they lost badly, and in one of those games they still scored a goal. So it wasn't like they just completely couldn't get through. And in the other game they did get through a number of times. They just didn't finish their chances. The thing that they probably should have changed to counter that was having a striker on the pitch. You put on Aguero because in those two prior games, that's what they struggled with. It was finishing the chances that they made. And so having Fernandinho and Rodri in there wasn't the problem because they controlled the game. In this game, they didn't even control it. The first half, Chelsea had as much the ball as Man City. That's not supposed to happen. And then he also played Sterling. which was a mistake because Sterling has scored, what, 1 in 22? 1 in 22, something like that. Something awful.
Yeah.
The front three, in my opinion, he should have changed or should have played. It's mad I'm saying that because Guardiola's won Champions leagues all over the world, and yet I'm questioning what he does, and I'm just sat here on your YouTube channel. You know what I mean?
Our YouTube channel.
It should have been Mahrez, Foden, and Aguero, in my opinion. And then you have Rodri. Why he brought on Fernandinho instead of Rodri, I don't know either, because Rodri is, in my opinion, much better. Because Fernandinho gave away about 5 fouls.
Something like that. He was lucky to stay on.
Yeah. I mean, one of them was awful as well. You have De Bruyne on there and Gundogan. And that is their, if you put their team on paper, that is their team. And everyone knows that's their team. In a final, you're supposed to play your team on paper. You don't chop and change things or have many surprises in it. He also surprised everyone by playing Zinchenko at left back. And he was pretty dire as well, to be honest with you. I mean, Cancelo has been one of the best fullbacks this season. And he decides to play Zinchenko.
You see, the trouble is that I've said before the way that City train and that they have a pitch and they square it out and every player knows they're in this square or that square and they stay where they are. So every player knows exactly where everybody else is. If they leave a square, somebody covers, etc. And they train and they train and they train. They do not chase the ball. So here, he changes that midfield and makes it you run up and down that pitch for the ball, with the ball. They don't train like that. That isn't what they do. It's, in fact, he's said, we are not a team that runs up and down the pitch. It was one of his quotes when discussing something. But that's what he set up, a team that had to run at the others, and they didn't know how to do it.
It was evident that in this game, Guardiola and City were more focused on tactics than they were on anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like when you lead up to a final, it's more of a mental thing, especially for City, because the Champions League is what they've been building up to for so long. It's what everyone put the pressure on them for, and surely that's what you focus on. You focus on how people are going to deal with different situations in the match, how you're going to build up to the match, how you get things out of your mind. Whereas he was concentrating on who he's going to be playing at centre mid.
I would say, you see, that if he's got plan 1, and he should have plan 2. Okay, he should have a couple of ways that City can play.
Yeah.
And the players should know the choices that he's going to put out and say, right, what we're going to do is we're going to play plan A. We're going to have so many at the back, so many in midfield. We're going to be going down this side, not that side. And that's plan A. And then he has a plan B, and that's slightly different. And then you have this type of player, blah, blah, blah. And he walks into the dressing room whenever, and he says, okay, on whenever night, Sunday night, whatever, we're playing plan B. And they know what they're going to do. He shouldn't turn up and we're playing plan S. I know we've never done it before, and we know it's the final, but I've got this idea in my head, and we've lost the last 2, so you're not playing, but you are. And he goes, what, me? I've never done that before. No, but you can. And so he dropped a bomb on that team who couldn't play that game.
He also changed one of those positions that I think in football is becoming one of the have-to-haves. It's almost like as important as having a goalkeeper. Having a CDM these days, a good CDM, means so much to teams. I mean, first-hand experience, Fabinho, flipping out what difference he makes when he's playing CDM for Liverpool.
Yes.
And because they've gotten away with not having a striker this season, and they've managed to do that, and fair enough. They could have left it at that. That would have been fine for the final, because that's what they've been doing the whole season, and they did. but you don't take out one of your most vital positions. It's like playing one centre back.
I think he really failed, actually, and I would question him an awful lot. It's not the first time he's done it, and I would be really concerned if I was the owner of Manchester City, having let him loose on a final that means so much, and for him to have done that, I think that is all well and fine to say what a great manager, he's one of the best, but he's also one of the worst, isn't he?
In certain situations.
And that he showed that actually he's not as good as he likes to think he is. In fact, he made a whopping mistake, a bigger mistake than I've seen a manager make, because it was the biggest occasion and he dropped a clanger, and it's not the first time.
No.
And
Especially in the Champions League.
And I think they should do him for it. I think City should take him apart for it. He should be in that office explaining himself to people, because some people lose their jobs over that. And I really think he owes his players an apology, and I think he owes the fans an apology, and I think he owes the owners a whopping apology. And I know you could say, well, I'm going a bit over the top,
but it's £1 billion he spent
but
since he's been there.
He has spent billions. We've seen the difference in what his team is worth compared with anybody else's, and if he can't win that cup when he gets the choice, and he does that, that cup was his yesterday. That was his. All he had to do was put out his team that play really well the rest of the season, the way that they play. That's all he had to do. And occasionally you might want to make a little move here or a little move there. And he's got the money and the players on that bench to do so. You don't do that, do you?
I mean, I think next season, end of next season, he could be gone. Just Chelsea and Liverpool, flipping heck, he's going to have a tough ride. I think Chelsea's going to be very, very good next season.
I think so. I think, you know, that City have had their chance. So that, I mean, that European Cup final will not turn up on a regular basis. That what a chance for them. And he lost. Okay, we'll finish here, but I think Guardiola lost Manchester City the European Cup. And we've spoken all about City, but can I say, I thought Chelsea were brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. I'm sorry to have spent all that time talking about City, because really, I haven't seen Chelsea play as good as that. Defensively, no.
I mean, Reece James and Ben Chilwell, I think, have played themselves into the England team.
Yeah,
haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I was amazed. I was amazed how they coped with the pressure, etc. And I thought they were brilliant. And I did. I thought Chelsea were brilliant, and it's good to see how many England players on that pitch for Chelsea. And so we're going to finish there. We'll have a lot more to talk about, etc., etc. But for now, we'll say goodbye. And so it's goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from him, Kieran.
Cheers, lads.
Okay, thank you. Bye.